Hello YouTube, welcome to another Season 6 Patch 5.24 guide by eKaming Television, and in this guide we're going to be covering Support Blitzcrank. Support Blitzcrank is actually one of the most fun supports to play in my opinion. You basically roam around the map trying to grab people, and it's pretty fun, definitely when you actually land grabs. He also fits in very well if you do need initiate, or if you do need just a tanky frontliner. It's also great to pick him if you're against champions with some silenced abilities and whatnot, like a Katarina or Misfortune, as you have multiple ways to cancel their ultimates. Most champions have maybe one ability where they can do that, however Blitz has so many, he doesn't really have to sit around waiting to use one certain skill in order to do that. In this guide, we're going to cover his pros and cons, his masteries, runes, summoners, his ability leveling order, and his item build. I'd also like to say for any new people that are watching this guide that we do have a skin giveaway which closes on December 31st. I will have a link at the end of the video, so make sure you click that and subscribe. With all of that out of the way, we're going to jump right into the pros and cons. The first one being he's one of the most fun to play supports, like I said before. A lot of supports generally have to sit in lane, healing and shielding their AD carries, however this is not where Blitzcrank shines. If he's actually sitting in bot lane, he's generally trying to get hooks from the brush, or he's roaming around minions trying to hook from there as well. But he doesn't usually sit in bot lane that often, he gets to roam around the map trying to find hooks as well. If you're somebody who hates having to be forced to support since you're at the bottom of the pick list, pick something like Blitzcrank or Thresh where you can actually have fun playing the role. His next pro is that he has a game-changing skill shot. And what's really cool about it is you could miss it all game long. However, if you are in the late game and you manage to pick off a squishy target, you can win the game anyways. You have to understand in high ranks that people are good and they know how to dodge Blitzcrank's grab, so it's not going to happen all the time. Just make it happen sometimes. Another pro he has is that he has a silence and a pop-up. As previously stated, this gives him two different ways to cancel somebody such as a Katarina that jumps into your team hoping to get off a devastating ultimate. He's already a pretty solid pick as it is, however when he's against something like a Katarina, he becomes that much better. Blitzcrank is also insanely dangerous under his own turret. If he's able to grab somebody under his tower, then pop them up and later silence them, that's pretty much a for sure kill. This also makes him a great pick against AD carries that generally push the lane. His last pro is that he has great survivability. He has decent stats to begin with, and he generally wants to build tanky because of his kit. On top of this, his passive mana shield makes him even tankier when it procs. He doesn't even have to build that many items in order to be a very tanky target. This means in team fights, he's usually going to be able to get off his ult, silencing people, and pop up a good target as well. With all of those pros come a lot of cons as well. The first one being he has no healing. Your lane can be rather rough if you're against something that can actually sustain itself when you're not able to land your grabs. If you're not landing your grabs, your health is probably going to dwindle lower and lower while theirs stays at full. This is going to be really rough for you. If in this situation, try to keep calm and keep your health up with your relic shield and health pots and look for a grab whenever you can. Blitz's next con is that he's very mana hungry early on. His rocket grab actually costs a shitload of mana and you're only able to use it a limited amount of times in lane. Try not to spam it too often unless you know you have a very high chance of actually landing it. His next con is that he is very skill shot dependent as well. Blitzcrank is a good champion regardless of if you're landing your skill shots or not. However, if you do land them, he obviously becomes insanely good. You're going to need to try it in game and learn how fast it actually shoots out, where champions are likely to run in certain situations, how fast they can actually run, and if they have a dash or flash, where would they move to? The best blitzes out there are able to determine where their enemy champion is likely to go, and then grab towards that location. His next con is that he is very vulnerable to poke. If you are against a poke comp and you're not able to land your grabs, you're going to have a very rough time. Eventually your health is going to dwindle low to the point where you're not even going to want to rocket grab them anyways. As I said before, just try to keep calm and make it through the laning phase. If there's an opportunity to roam, then take it. Blitz's last con is that he requires high decision making. You're going to find yourself in situations where the enemy champion actually wants you to pull him into your team. You're going to end up asking yourself all sorts of different questions all the time, such as, is it worth pulling this champion? Can we kill him in time? Does he likely have allies around him? If he does have allies around him, do I have enough teammates in order to take this fight? These are things that are going to be very dependent on your team comp as well as their team comp and the champion you have the chance to pull. Next we look at Blitzcrank's masteries, which are 12 Cunning and 18 Resolve. We start by getting Wanderer in Cunning, which is 3% movement speed out of combat so you can roam and get those grabs. We then get Secret Stash, so your potions and elixirs last 10% longer and your health pots become biscuits because you're mana hungry as fuck and Sustain is awesome. You follow this up with meditation, so you regenerate 1.5% of your missing mana every 5 seconds, which also helps with your mana issues. And the last thing we get in Cunning is Bandit, which is gain 1 gold for each nearby minion killed by an ally, and gain 10 gold when hitting an enemy champion with a basic attack, which is on a 5-second cooldown, because gaining money is awesome. We then start in Resolve by getting Recovery for 2 health per 5 seconds. We follow this up with Explorer, so we get 15 move speed in Brush and River, so we can get more grabs as well. We then get Veteran Scars for an extra 45 health, so we're even tankier in the early lane phase. We follow that up with Insight, so reduce the cooldowns of our summoner spells by 15%. Since we grab Boots of Mobility and knock Merc Boots, we get Swiftness for 15% tenacity and slow resist. And lastly, to help with our tankiness even more, we get Bond of Stone, so we get 3 damage reduction, which is increased to 6% while near an allied champion. 6% of the damage taken by the neared allied champion is dealt to you instead. For our runes, we start by getting 9 greater marks of attack damage, then 9 greater glyphs of mana, 9 greater seals of armor, and 3 greater quintessences of movement speed. Now, I definitely know somebody said, what the hell, this guy just took attack damage marks, this guy is shit. But no, seriously, try it. It actually helps in duels a lot, and you can actually do a lot of damage quick. The greater glyphs of mana actually helps with the amount of grabs you can do in the lane. As well, your passive is based off of your mana, so this also helps with your shield you get from that as well. Armor is very obvious. There's an 80 carry in bot lane, and taking less damage is pretty sick, so that's why we take the armor. And this guy is really based off of his movement speed, which is why we get the greater quintessences of movement speed, so we can roam around more and get more grab opportunities. An alternative to the 9 greater marks of attack damage, for those of you that don't like dealing damage, would be 9 greater marks of armor. If these marks actually gave the same amount of armor as the seals, then of course we would always take the armor. However, they are lower than that, so it's not that amazing, and I prefer the attack damage personally. As for his summoners, we go on the full offensive, getting Flash and Ignite. Flash is used for chasing, escaping, and repositioning. It's a great spell for Blitzcrank, as it can help with closing the gap between you and your target. Some child might start spamming his laugh whenever you miss a rocket grab. However, then you just flash on him, pop his ass up, and get a kill. Ignite is a great summoner for an aggressive support player. This will increase your kill potential in lane, and you and your AD carry will be much stronger early on. Exhaust is much better late game, however, so pick wisely. If you're trying to snowball early on, take Ignite. If you're looking for the late game, take Exhaust. Now we're going to look at each of his abilities, starting with his passive, which is called Mana Barrier. When Blitzcrank drops below 20% of his maximum health, he shields himself for 50% of his current mana for up to 10 seconds, and the static cooldown is 90 seconds. Now this passive actually kind of hides his tankiness. If he has items with a lot of mana, such as a Frozen Heart or something of the sort, he's actually got a huge shield he will get. You can use this passive to bait people. If you have low health and you know you have your static cooldown up, you can bait people when you have teammates nearby, as the enemy will come try to finish you off, but then your teammate will end up getting the kill instead. Now for the skill that makes Blitzcrank Blitzcrank. His Q, Rocket Grab. Blitzcrank fires his right hand in the target direction, pulling the first enemy hit to him, stunning them for 0.5 seconds, and dealing magic damage. The magic damage is between 80 and 300, plus 100% AP. The range is 925, the speed is 1750, the cost is 100 mana, and the cooldown goes from 20 to 16 at max rank. This is a skill we're going to max first. As you can see, the magic damage it does is actually huge, and it has a very good ratio. As well, the cooldown goes down with the level. As I said before, the cost is rather high on this ability, and you're not going to be able to use it that much, at least early in the lane phase. So make sure you pick your spots wisely. Getting used to the range and speed is going to take you a little while on Blitzcrank, knowing exactly how far it's going to shoot out and how fast. However, Blitzcrank is a champion that's well worth the wait. When using it, you also have to keep in mind that it will pull the first enemy hit, so that means minions as well. And pulling minions is a huge friggin' waste of your mana. Next is his W, which is called Overdrive. Blitzcrank puts himself into overdrive, gaining bonus attack speed for 5 seconds and bonus movement speed that decays to 10% over the duration. When overdrive ends, Blitzcrank is slowed by 30% for 1.5 seconds. The movement speed goes from 70 to 90%, and the attack speed goes from 30 to 62%. The cost is 75 mana, and the cooldown is always 15 seconds. Now, all the attack speed we get from this ability is part of the reason we took AD marks on our rune page. I hope it makes a bit more sense now. The movement speed part of this ability, however, is the best part, as it allows you to get into a better position very fast to land your grab. We max this ability second, as the movement speed and attack speed bonuses we get from leveling it are way worth it. The last of his basic abilities is his E, which is called Power Fist. Blitzcrank's next basic attack deals 100% AD bonus physical damage and knocks up his target for 1 second. Power Fist also resets Blitzcrank's auto attack timer. The cost is 25 mana and the cooldown goes from 9 to 5 seconds at max rank. This ability is great because it's going to eventually have a very short cooldown and can be used to stop channeled ultimates. A skill that's on a 5-second cooldown that stops these is really strong. Generally, you want to use this skill right after your pull so they get chain CC'd for a short duration. Usually with all the damage your AD carry does, as well as yourself, this will be enough time to secure an easy kill. And if it's not, just pop your ult on their ass as well. Blitzcrank's last ability is his static field, which is his ultimate, and it has a passive and active effect. For the passive part, while static field is not on cooldown, Blitzcrank fires a lightning bolt at a random nearby visible enemy every 2.5 seconds, dealing magic damage, and the bolt magic damage is between 100 and 300 plus 20% AP. And this is just a nice little added amount of damage without having to really do anything. As for the active, Blitzcrank detonates his static field, dealing magic damage to nearby enemies and silencing them for 0.5 seconds. Then detonation magic damage is between 250 and 500 plus 100% AP. The range is between 450 and 600, the cost is 100 mana, and the cooldown is only 30 seconds. As you can see, this is yet another high damaging ability that has a very good AP ratio as well. And the best part about it, it's only got a 30-second cooldown for an ultimate, and it does a silence in an AoE range. You can use this either to chunk squishy targets or silence important targets. With all of those covered, we jump into the ability leveling order, which starts with static field, which is your R, and you take it whenever you can, meaning 6, 11, and 16. Your highest priority basic ability is rocket grab, which is your Q. You take it at level 1, and it is main priority, so you take it at 1, 4, 5, 7, and 9. Next on the list is your overdrive, which is your W. You take it at level 3, and it is second in leveling priority, so you take it at 3, 8, 10, 12, and 13. Last in leveling priority is your power fist, and you take this at 2, 14, 15, 17, and 18. You take it at level 2, so you're able to chain CC with your rocket grab at level 2. Now we jump into his item build, which starts with a relic shield and some health pots. These are the items that are going to give Blitz the best slaying sustain as possible, and it gives a nice little gold boost. We then rush into a Face of the Mountain, Boots of Mobility, and a Ruby Sightstone. I listed Face of the Mountain first because it is your gold generation item, however I would get Boots of Mobility before that as well as the Ruby Sightstone, and then follow it with Face of the Mountain. We then go into a Locket of the Iron Solari, so we get a bit tankier, and we have a shield we can activate for our teammates since we are a support after all. We then go into a Frozen Heart, so we get all the mana, so our mana shield is bigger. As well, we get a lot tankier with all the armor it provides. Our last core item we get is a Righteous Glory. This is a great item because we can pop it to get a bunch of movement speed in case we need some extra on top of our W. This isn't always needed, however, and so we have some alternatives listed. One good alternative, if we do need some magic resist, would be a Banshee's Veil. Iceborne Gauntlet can work pretty good on Blitz as well if you're looking to do a bit more damage and not be the tanky route. An alternative tanky item would be the Dead Man's Plate. This is just an all-around good tanky item, so that's why it's listed as an alternative. Blitz is a champion that takes a bit more skill than a traditional support, however, he's much more fun to play, and he's well worth it whenever you actually learn how to land your grabs properly. That pretty much covers it for my Blitz guide. I hope you guys really liked it and you found it very informative. Please like and subscribe if you guys did enjoy the video. I'd like to remind you guys as well that we do have a skin giveaway that closes in 2 days. I'm going to have that listed in the annotations as well as the video description, so make sure you guys look at that. If you have any champions you'd like to see a guide on, please leave that as well in the comments. However, I have a list of about 15 to do, so I'll get around to that eventually. I'd like to thank you guys again for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next guide. Happy holidays from the frozen land they call Canada.